The Laura Kuenssberg program this morning was interesting, but despite all the effort that she puts into asking questions and these very elaborate long sentences that precede the question that she wants to give, all of which she's reading from a bit of paper, she doesn't really get to the nub of the problem in either case, so whether she's talking to James Cleverly or to Rachel Reeves. Let me take Rachel Reeves first because she's the easiest one to deal with. So, first of all, I felt that Laura Kuenssberg was very unfair to her. The questions were much longer, and the questions were repetitive about whether or not she was going to cut public services. And it came down to Rachel Reeves' response. I mean, she talked about VAT on private schools at least twice. And she talked about the 6.5 additional teachers that are going to be paid for with that VAT, the 13,000 additional police that are going to be paid for with proper taxing of people in banking and so on, and dealing with tax avoidance, which James Cleverly also talks about. Well, it's okay to talk about something being properly costed, but there's still the issue of training and finding these teachers and these additional police. And it's not good enough simply to say, oh, we can pay for them. They don't exist. If those teachers actually existed, if those police actually existed, they would already be coming forward and joining teacher training programs and joining police programs. They don't. They aren't. So either they're going to be recruited from abroad, or it's going to be a very slow wind up before these teachers or police are actually in the job. So the fact that you can pay them doesn't mean they're actually there. And this is the hole, the gaping hole in the middle of Rachel Reeves' rhetoric. And I'm astonished that somebody like Laura Kuenssberg can't identify that and can't push to get the detail about that. It's not enough simply to be repeating the same mantra again and again and hoping that eventually, after it's repeated enough, it's going to prove to be true. As for James Cleverly, his interview, extraordinarily smug, and a lot of it was about himself, about the fact that he has been a reservist for most of his adult life, quote. And I think he said that more than twice. The mandatory national service, this is something, as Laura Kuenssberg pointed out, Patrick Sanders had proposed this, and it was dismissed by the government. And now that we're in an election phase, suddenly it's headlines. And as one of the panelists pointed out, it probably is never going to happen. And James Cleverly is playing games really here, and the shared prosperity, the idea of part of this volunteering, compulsory volunteering, is going to be in part paid for by the shared prosperity money, and because it's considered to be part of the levelling up. Well, the levelling up was useless anyway. It was in the hands of Michael Gove, who has now quit Parliament, and not before time, because he was monumentally absurd. And Donkey Gove, not capable, big voice, and did nothing except for criticize people, stab them in the back, ruin things. He is a ruiner, not a creator. And to give him one of these big briefs was nonsensical. And as he pointed out, the impact of what he has been doing will not be felt for years Well, no. So he can't be judged on it. Well, he can be judged on it. He's achieved nothing. And now his budget is being taken and given to some sort of flag-waving, mandatory, voluntary national service. They can't even make up their mind whether it's voluntary or mandatory. So they're using both words. And cleverly wants volunteering to become part of our national life. Well, great. That's great. So then don't make it compulsory to start with. And the difference between a year of military training and 25 days of volunteering for the uniformed sector, for the police, for the NHS, for ambulance, firefighters and stuff, 25 days a year, as opposed to working for the army. This is nonsense. He says he uses again one of these conservative tag works, pump priming, a habit of volunteering. I never really knew what pump priming was. The first time I heard it, I thought it was something you did at a petrol station. This is a grab at reform voters, and it simply doesn't work. And when he was asked to talk about the rise of the spike in crime under the present government, he tried desperately to blame Labour and saying, well, all of these figures are about a rise in crime in London, under Labour-controlled London, and that distorts the national picture. If you took London out of the picture, then the crime would have gone down. Well, London is an essential part of the picture. It happens to be the capital. And so again, this sort of nitpicking and playing around with facts and statistics is not worth the time spent on it in a major television program on the BBC. So a lot of my criticism of the Laura Kuenssberg BBC program this morning is of Laura Kuenssberg, as ever, because she doesn't follow up and she doesn't question the MPs when they are there in front of her. She follows instead her script. That's not the job of a seasoned and top BBC reporter. The job of a BBC reporter is to follow up the answers which are given, rather than constantly toady to the script that's been prepared by her team. The script is irrelevant. What we're interested in is what comes out when she's talking to these people. And I've had it up to here with people following the script in Parliament. Now they're following it on the BBC, and no doubt all her guests were were passed through producers who asked what their answers were likely to be before they even got on air. So what you get is this sort of tired, worn out, second-rate rehash. The only time where the camera should be on is, I think, in those production meetings, in those rehearsals, because that's where the real energy is, not in front of the television studio cameras. They're just capturing the throwaway bits, the detritus, the ephemeral has-beens. So, the program needs to change. The program needs to improve if it's going to command our interest.